Introducing the Soul Collection by Brilliant Earth, the global leader in ethically sourced fine jewelry. Designed for everyday elegance, this exclusive new collection features timeless rings and bracelets, made with recycled gold and silver, and adorned with beyond conflict-free diamonds to celebrate your unique style and story. Energizing and iconic, the Soul Collection reflects what makes Brilliant Earth a beacon in the industry. Recognizable design, careful craftsmanship, and an unwavering commitment to quality, sustainability, and transparency. Drawing inspiration from the warmth and energy of the sun, Soul is more than jewelry. It's an expression of your personality. Find the pieces that resonate with you and discover a radiant addition to your forever collection. The Soul Collection, available exclusively at Brilliant Earth. Be light. Be you.
Are you tired of fighting your air? Constantly lighting candles or replacing air fresheners to mask household odors from pets, smoke, musty basement, shoes, or just stagnant, stuffy air, yet never gaining on it? Take charge of your air with an Easy Breathe ventilation system. For over 20 years, Easy Breathe has been providing air exchanges and reducing airborne particles by up to 85%. Right now, receive 20% off your own Easy Breathe ventilation system. Call 866-822-7328. or visit takechargeofyourair.com.
If you really like this episode, please support our podcast by going to patreon.com/truecrimewives and get lots of great extras.
Good Wives Guide to True Crime. We discuss crimes that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
Well, back a few months ago, we had the privilege and honor of interviewing author J. Reuben Eppelman about the mysterious case we're going to be talking about tonight and for the next couple episodes. So you're definitely want to head over and listen to that interview to get some bonus details from the case from the man who literally wrote the book about it.
It's a great book. It's called The Kill Jar. It's amazing.
Hey folks, it's time to grab your glass of wine because the Good Wives, Fancy, Colleen, and Christina, are about to serve up another true crime case.
Tonight, we are discussing the Oakland County Child Killer, OCCK. In this case, we have an unknown person or persons who was responsible for the unsolved murders of 4 or more children, 2 girls and 2 boys, in Oakland County, Michigan in 1976 and 1977.
Well, so this case I was watching a show on Hulu, and it's like a 2-parter documentary. And I was just fascinated. I had never heard of it before. And I'm in Wisconsin, so it's, I'm neighbor to Michigan. But I'd never heard of this case. And I still feel like it doesn't really get that much national attention for the amount of insanity that this case actually entails.
Yeah, it's funny because the way I learned about this case was from the show Mindhunter talks about the Atlanta child murders, and I thought the 2 cases were the same, and then I realized they weren't the same. And so then I saw Children of the Snow, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, I watched the same documentary. It's a very good documentary. And then I found out that there was a book, and I started reading the book, and the book is amazing. I just got to tell you, and that's our book of the month this month, The Kill Jar. And so if you want to go over to Instagram, we have a link to it so you can go right to it and purchase it. And then on that thread, we're going to start having conversations about the book on the book thread, the book of the month thread. So that way we can all talk about it. So it's fun. But, there's been a lot of missing children across the country. In America alone, it's said to be that at any given time, there's over 600,000 missing people, and about 75% of that is usually children. And so this is children that go missing through, kidnappings for, even like kidnappings of family, that kind of thing, where there's a custody battle, those are counted in that too. But children going missing and then, being found dead, or they end up in a pedophile ring or a sex trafficking. It's heartbreaking. And we had the pleasure of talking with a woman, Glendine Grant, who has been searching for her daughter Jessie for years and years and years and years, and she thinks she was actually sold into sex trafficking. And that is one of the things we're actually going to cover. That's one of the cases we're going to cover with Todd Matthews on our brand new podcast that's coming up at the end of August, so beginning of September. That's all going to do with just straight missing person cases. So we're really excited about that.
I think it's very disturbing and upsetting about how many missing children there are in the world, but in particularly in the United States, we have a horrible problem with it. My mom, actually, she was charged with custodial kidnapping. I went down to see her over like a winter break during, I think it was, or summer break, something like that, when I was like 5, because she lived in Florida and my dad lived in Wisconsin. And then her mom made up allegations that my papa had been molesting me, and he didn't. But my mom didn't know that her mom had made up that lie and coaching me, and so she kept me longer than she was supposed to and refused to send me back. And then my dad she lost custody for the whole thing because of it. Like, she lost permanent custody. But so I know a little bit on the custodial kidnapping side, but unfortunately there is a horrible epidemic of pedophilia in this country, and the amount of kidnapping of children for the purpose of pedophilia and sexual slavery. It's disturbing, it's disgusting, and unfortunately this case gets involved in that.
Right. And it's one of those cases that, again, I think that could have been solved and could have had justice brought for these families, and nothing. It just seems like that was not what was going to happen. And it's another case of, somebody being able to pay off and get away with murder. I mean, literally. And it's just very frustrating. I've never lost one of my children, of course, thank God. But when I was a very young mother, my mom told me, when you're walking through a store, when you're walking wherever, you always keep them in front of you so you can always see them. And one of my friends, she had a little girl that was just 1 year older than my oldest daughter, who would constantly run off all the time. And we were in California next to the, very close to the border. And I would always tell her, hey, you know what? She's a prime target for this. She's a little blonde haired, blue eyed little girl. And that is very popular, and they like to sell them over the border, and then they use them as drug mules, and it's terrible. And so one day we were at Disneyland. I worked for Disney for a long time, and so we could get in for free. And so we would always go and take the girls. And one day we were gone. We went and we were in the teacup, and the teacup came to a stop, as it does. It's rotating and it finally stops. And I opened the door and her daughter took off like a bat. I mean, gone. It was the craziest thing. And for 30 minutes, we had no idea where she was. It was the most frightening thing ever. And finally, this lady tapped us on the shoulder, and she was like, hey, I think I know where the little girl is that you're looking for. Is that her over there? Of course it was, thank God. And because I was just about to go and get like the whole, you can shut the whole thing of Disneyland down. They'll do the code Adam, and they'll shut it all down. But then my friend is like, she's like, oh, you scared, Mom? And I was like, oh, hell no. So I like bent down and I'm like, look here, little girl, don't you ever do that again, because if you do, we're going home and you're never coming back to Disneyland. Like, she's like, I'm sorry. Okay, well then that's stupid. And my friend's like, don't yell at her. I'm like, I'm going to yell at her because she could have died. She could have been gone.
It's unfortunate that happens all the time, all the time. And in this case specifically, I think a lot of problems, at least in the past with police officers, was that it was, oh, well, maybe they just ran away, call back later, or we'll come tomorrow if they haven't shown up. Right. And they ignore the most precious 24-hour time period. And then after that time, and they're like, oh, well, I guess this kid really is missing. And by then, the kid can be across the whole country.
And thankfully, the laws are starting to change more over the years, especially in this last couple of years. They're starting to, really get rid of that 24 hours, and they know that it's critical, especially with a child. that within the first 48 hours, if you have not found them, then it's, the likelihood of finding them alive goes down by like 50 to 75%, so it's very important, and I'm thankful that they've started to take that more seriously, even if the kid ran away. Like, if you're an 8, 9, 10-year-old and your kid ran away, who gives a shit? I don't care whether he ran away or he got kidnapped. He is missing. Like,
But they're kids. It's not like I think the first time I ever even had a thought of like running away was probably when I was like 13. Like, I wasn't young, and even if I did, it was like, I'm going for a walk, but
right.
I'm not, packing a bag and ditching the home. Like,
well, my mom did that to my grandmother, and like, so then my grandma helped her pack her bag. She was like, all right, fine, where are you going? Like, and I guess my mom was like 10. And so she helped her pack the bag, like, and it was like stupid crap. My mom put the most ridiculous crap in there, like nothing that was practical, right? And so then my mom ran away. Well, they had this alleyway that was like behind their house, and that's where my mom ran away to. So my grandmother had full vision of my mom the whole time, And so then my mom comes back and she's like, you weren't even looking for me. And my grandmother was like, I knew where you were the whole time. What are you talking about? Like, it was just funny, So, but I think that a lot of little kids, I think 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, they get to the point where they're like, I'm running away. But like we said, it's like to the backyard or to
the bush at the corner.
To the corner. I'm running away. Like, but so I don't know kids that are like 7, 8 years old, unless they're being severely abused, that are running away, just running away. I'm just going to run away.
Well, and
that we shouldn't be looking for them still.
Well, the big thing, this too, is that these are kids who went missing in the winter. This
right.
is not, July or May, early September.
Right.
No, this is Michigan winter.
It reminds me very much of the Leticia Stout case where, they're looking for his body and they're having to stab the snow, because it's the winter. Where is he going in the winter, And it's sad that case ended sadly, with his body in a suitcase in a whole other state. That was just terrible. And his stepmom was to blame for that, but, and we're going to actually have some updates on that with Leah Egan and Ellen Killerman from Crime Online coming up. So I'm very excited about that too. So guys, I want to head over to Murder by Design and make sure you subscribe and ring the bell, because we've got a lot of good stuff going on over there. But
don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back. If you've been listening to our podcast for some time, then you've probably noticed that there's been some different changes going on. And that's because we've recently switched over to our new hosting platform using Buzzsprout. And we love it. It could not have been a smoother transition. Buzzsprout has made it super simple and gave us amazing features we weren't getting before. So if you've been thinking of hosting a podcast or you're looking for a new host, then we totally recommend giving Buzzsprout a try. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories like Apple, Spotify, Google, and even Pandora within minutes of finishing your recording. So join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. And if you follow the link in the show notes, that lets Buzzsprout know we sent you. And it helps you get a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan. And it helps support our show. In every episode, we like to serve up a special dish from the state that our crime takes place. So here's our resident Cajun Mama Ty to tell you what our true crime dish of the week is.
I'm sitting down on my front porch. I've been Cajun boogieing all afternoon long with the Cajun music going. Just want to wish a happy birthday to America today. And I'm here to give you guys a recipe. It's sausage hash brown bake. It's an easy recipe. Could be eaten at any time of the day. Could be a breakfast, lunch, supper, whatever time you want to eat it. You can eat it and make it. It's very easy. So let's head back to the Good Wives as they talk about this case, the Oakland Child Murders. See you in a few. Let's head back to the Good Wives.
Getting back into this case here. So Mark Stebbins was 12 and planned on becoming a Marine. Mark was in the 7th grade at Lincoln Junior High and was described as a lovable young child by his mother, Ruth Stebbins. Mark was last seen on February 15th, 1976 in Ferndale, Michigan. Mark and his mother were at the American Legion Hall where they were having a pool tournament. And bored, Mark asked his mother for money to go to the local hobby shop, but she said no because she'd already given him his allowance. Mark didn't seem upset, but he did ask if he could walk home to watch a movie. And I mean, he's 12. That's not like,
Right.
I can understand. You know, at 12, 13 years old, I was doing stuff like that, but generally I did it in a group.
Right. And I mean, and again, you got to go back, in that time period. I mean,
Right, to 76, right.
He's a boy, he's 12 and 76, he wasn't far from home. It was,
Right.
It was literally, it was about 3/4 of a mile of a walk, like not long at all. And
right.
Unfortunately,
he never came home.
So Mark left. His mom gave him the approval, so he left the American Legion Hall about noon to walk that 3/4 mile distance to his home on East Saratoga. Later that day, Ruth called home to check on Mark, but got no answer. And when she got home a little before 9 p.m., she found the house empty. And when Mark didn't arrive home by 11 p.m., his mother was terrified. And so she let him have, the day. She was gone for 9 more hours.
Right.
And she was gone for a long time.
So I'm sure that played into this too, because you think about it, like if you think your kid is somewhere, and then it's hours before you realize, wait, they're not there, So when Mark didn't arrive home by 11 p.m., his mother was terrified, and she called the police and reported Mark missing. And, quote, we haven't had a kidnapping in Ferndale in 10 years, said the police. So police assumed maybe he was out with friends or possibly a runaway and would turn up soon. Despite thinking he was a runaway, police did conduct a widespread search of Ferndale, checking abandoned buildings, garbage cans, anywhere they could think of. But Ruth was terrified. She stayed up all night for Mark the night he disappeared, and she said, I kept hearing noises and thinking it was Mark. The next few days, I set 3 places at the table in hopes that he would come home. 4 days later, on February 19th, businessman Mark Bodenheimer, I hope I said that right, found Mark's body in the snow in a parking lot in Oakdale. And Oakdale is a little over 2 hours northeast of Ferndale. And at first, the businessman thought it was a mannequin in the snow, but looking closer, he saw it was the corpse of a child.
And so that already there shows that it's not a runaway. Like he, 2.5 hours, a drive away from his town. It's like a kid's not walking that.
Right.
And he found it a snowbank. So super sad. And scarring for the person who found him.
Right.
But so Mark's body had actually been carefully placed there, curled up as if he were sleeping near a dumpster. Police said it appeared that he had been deceased for less than 8 hours. And police at the scene noted wounds and bruising that led them to believe that he was beaten and tied up.
So God knows what this poor kid went through for those 4 days.
Right. That's a long time, especially knowing that he was alive for that period of time.
Right.
It's not like he was out sitting in the snow. He didn't have frostbite or anything. He was.
Yeah, it's terrible to think that's it, and then just toss him in the snow. Like the fact that they found that he was found so easily like that. That's like the person didn't have any care of being caught or worries or anything. Just here, I'm just done with you. Toss him out the window. Like it's just. Oh.
Well, and there's a poor little, naked boy just on the ground in the snow.
So there have been 2 accounts of the cause of death. Some reports state that there were ligature marks around Mark's neck, neck. Other reports he was smothered. It was also reported that he was molested by his killer. Strangely, Mark had been washed by his killer and his nails manicured. His clothes were also washed and pressed. He was then carefully placed at the dump site in the sleeping position. The killer would gain the name Babysitter Killer because of how he left the body as if he cared for him. So, it's almost like I mean, yes, they care for it. They took care of him, and they, so that shows that there was some amount of care. But then again, it's like, here, just toss him out in the snow. And it is strange that his clothes are pressed and washed. Like that's a psychotic like break, not a real. That's not like, oh, he was caring for him. That's something strange and cuckoo.
Well, right, because they clearly just didn't want to be caught, which means that they were worried that their DNA existed somewhere, and they didn't want to be connected to it. Like literally having a freshly washed body, manicured nails, no dirt, no fingernails, just scrubbed, no DNA on him.
But the thing with the pressing of the clothes, that's strange. Like that's a clue to me as to who the killer is, like, and what that killer is like, So washing the body because you don't want any DNA, washing the clothes because you don't want any DNA or whatever, that's one thing. But to neatly press these clothes, because back then you didn't have dryers that, they came out like, permanent press like that. It was to press clothes, you had to pull out an ironing board and iron them down, and that took time back then. It was not simple like now,
Curiosity Stream is the streaming service for people who want to know more. And now check out Curiosity's new series, Queens of Ancient Egypt. When pharaohs held the throne, their wives held the power.
We see her taking precedence over the pharaoh, an absolute mastermind.
All hail the queens.
This is unprecedented.
Watch Queens of Ancient Egypt now on Curiosity Stream. With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
Very true. Very true.
So I think that really shows who this person is. If I was sitting to put down together a profile, that would go in my profile. I would think about that,
The neuroses of the perpetrator. And unfortunately, in hindsight, an error occurred early in this investigation. Police moved Mark's body before the county medical examiner had arrived at the scene. His body was also taken to the Southfield police station instead of the morgue. In addition, police removed Mark's clothing, which destroyed and contaminated any existing evidence.
And that makes me think, did they know who this killer was and they were covering, and that's why they did that? Or was that just an absolute bungling by the police,
I think that was probably a bungling. Like the police officer had said that they hadn't had a missing kid in over 10 years.
Sure.
And so probably nobody knew what to do. It's February. They're worried about the little boy outside and probably thought they were doing the right thing to do.
Right. Which again makes my point of even today that I feel that officers need ongoing training. Like when you're a doctor or even a real estate agent, you have to go and recertify every couple of years. You have to pass a test and do different things. Nurses do as well, ongoing training, things like that. But the police officers, they don't have that. And I think that they absolutely need that so that they can be up to date on current things. I talked with Cheryl McCollum yesterday in the case of Honey Malone out of Atlanta. And when Karen Greer, who does CSI Atlanta, and she's just a news anchor, she's not like a CSI analyst or anything. She took to them, to the police, this new type of technology that they had never heard of to track and process DNA and match it up in a specific way that was different than what they were doing. And since they've done that, since they showed them that, because she was like, what do you mean you don't know what this is? So then she set up in her studio for the news station. She invited all of them, like the doctors, the press, not the press, I'm sorry. She invited all the police, she invited firefighters, the prosecuting attorneys, defense attorneys, all to come down and see how this new mechanism worked, because none of them had heard of it, because, it was a small precinct. And so she got that. And since then they've solved they've got 20 20 open cases that they believe that they can solve using this new technology. So it's very important that they stay up to date on these things.
Right. I think we had this conversation with Stephen David Lampley and Cheryl before that, now, like, so this case happened in the 70s. They didn't have the technology we have now, DNA, they had brief fingerprints, but those were not reliable all the time. And so having that technology is that every place in, at least every county should have a DNA detecting machine to analyze samples. And that way they can run the DNA on cold cases and unsolved murders and crimes. And that way we have the ability to actually figure out who did it. Even if the person is already dead, you at least then have that justice. And then it also provides justice for the people who are in jail and on death row who were convicted of crimes that they didn't commit, and the DNA can exonerate them.
Right, exactly. And it's surprising to me because, like, even with talking with one of our experts, Cloyd Steiger, who was a homicide detective in Seattle for many, many years, they don't use familia DNA up there and he's trying to get them to do this. And it's like, the thing that I find that is most prevalent is that there's nothing that is the same across the board. Like I think that it needs to be much more like these stations need to be equipped and trained, and all of them across the board and pretty much in the same manner, not just, oh, well, you do this and we'll do that. And I think that there's got to be some, unified system here of how we're processing and doing things.
There has to be. That's the only way we'll get justice for the victims and the justice for the innocent is by having all the information we can and it be blanket across the board. Everybody's getting the fair treatment. So not just, oh, well, you're the DA's kid, so we'll do your case right away. Or you're my best friend's kid, so I'm going to really look at this case. Like, no, it's everybody gets treated the same. I will treat you just the way, like as a nurse, I will treat my patient the same way I would treat my grandma,
Right. Well, even beyond that, I just think they all need the same technology. Like, I think it just needs to be, that's it. Or if they don't have it, then there needs to be a less of a barrier to calling in, like, the state police or FBI or whatever, like immediately. There should be no pause in that. Like, nope, we don't deal with this very often. We don't see this very often. Our detectives aren't going to be trained in this, because we're a small whatever. We don't have these things. Let's get the people in here that do so we can get this taken care of. But anyway, at the time, the police worked with Dr. Bruce Danto, a psychiatrist who suggested returning to the dump site to lure the killer back to the scene. So police did as the doctor suggested and placed a child-sized mannequin dressed as Mark exactly where the body had been located.
That's creepy.
However, it's creepy. However, police would find a funeral service card from Mark's service at the spot where Mark had been placed. So this was a taunt left by the killer, suggesting he had attended the funeral services and somehow they had missed it. So, like, I guess they were so busy trying to pay attention to this dump site that they weren't looking at who was coming and going from the funeral. And this is something that killers do often.
All the time.
All the time.
They like to return to the scene of the crime, or they like to show up where people are least expecting it, like the funerals. That way they can get an inside feel of what the family and, any officers that are there, what they know at the time. So they know to stay ahead.
It's also another psychological, like, thrill for them. Yeah, another thrill, like, to show up at the especially if there's someone that knows the child or has had contact with the family in some way, like, that's a thrill. Like, what did I do? What does it happen? How is the family reacting? How does this make them feel? So it's just sad. But anyway, so many people attended the funeral, and Ruth had a chilling recollection. She said, I didn't recognize everyone who came, and I might have even shaken hands with the killer. In the aftermath of Mark's disappearance, Ruth became despondent and too distressed to work, so she ended up on welfare, and life was never the same again. Before Ruth died in 2011, she told reporters that every time she heard about a child being murdered, it brought her right back to the day Mark was found. And every time and this is her quote, every time a child has been killed since Mark, it happens to me all over. I still think about it every day.
And it's sad because, again, like cases that are this old from the 70s, the parents are now elderly, and it's sad because they'll die without having justice for their child and knowing what happened.
Right. The only thing that is solace that I can think of is that when they pass, if they believe, if they believe in God and in heaven and all of that, then hopefully then they've gotten to be reunited with their child. That would be amazing. But it's sad because it's like, I do feel for her. No parent should ever have to bury their own child. That is just heartbreaking and terrible, and I just think about her, how she had to relive that every single time, like thinking, oh, what is that parent going through? What did I go through? That's just so sad.
Well, and especially since, the next cases are going to be coming up within a year.
Right.
So it's re-traumatizing.
Right. And these are clearly cases that are connected, but for years they went unconnected, and I'm sure she's sitting there thinking, that sounds exactly like my Mark, every single time. So we'll be right back, guys. We're going to go ahead and get into a few more of the cases.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back.
What if you could be a true crime detective right from the comfort of your own home? Dispatch is an interactive serial mystery that unfolds over several months. Imagine the experience of an escape room in your own home, a new kind of escape called Dispatch. It's a subscription box that's a step apart from everyday entertainment. Better than a book, more engaging than television, think of it as an immersive mystery where you wear the detective hat. The story begins with your first delivery, or dispatch, if you will. In it, you'll find physical clues that lead you to the web and back to the real world to unravel a mysterious crime. Grab a friend, the whole family, and your thinking cap, and get ready to put your heads together for one mind-bending ride, as additional details are revealed with every package. Head over to our Instagram at www.instagram.com/truecrimewives and click on the link in our bio, then choose the dispatch button to start your own true crime adventure today.
Hey guys, it's me, Cajun Mama Ty. I'm back to give you the recipe sausage hash brown bake. It is an awesome recipe. It can be used as a breakfast. It can be used as a supper or a lunch, whatever time of day you want to use it. I like it because it's a casserole dish. You throw everything together, put it in the oven, you let it bake, and then you take it out and serve it. So for all you moms out there who want something fast, quick, and easy, this is the recipe for you. So I'm going to go over the ingredients. So what we're going to use is, it calls for 1 pound of pork sausage. But what I like to use is either breakfast sausage or either some andouille, which is a Cajun pork sausage. It has a little kick to it. So we're going to use some cream of chicken soup, some French onion soup, green bell pepper, red bell pepper, some shredded cheese, some onions, and a bag of hash browns. So the directions go like this. So you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Don't forget to do that so that you can have your oven heating while we're putting all this stuff together. So in a skillet, you want to cook your sausage. So you want to make sure that you cook like if you're having a link of sausage, like andouille already comes cooked, so you can just slice it up. But if you're using a pork sausage or a breakfast sausage, you'll have to take it out the casing and cook it. Or you can take it in the casing, cook it in the casing, and then slice it. So you want to cook that on a medium-high heat and stir until it's no longer pink inside. Usually takes about 7 to 10 minutes. You want to drain off the excess grease off of it and return the heat to the skillet. Okay? So with the meat, you're going to add the cream of chicken soup, the French onion soup, your green, red bell peppers, your onions, and then you'll fold in your hash brown potatoes. Okay? Then you're going to bring it to a simmer, and in there you're going to put only a cup of the shredded cheese. It calls for 2 cups of shredded cheese. You'll only put a cup of shredded cheese in there. Okay, so you're kind of melting the cheese to kind of make everything come together. Then once it's good and the hash browns have soaked up that juice, you want to take it and transfer it into a 9x11 casserole dish. Put the shredded cheese on top, cover it with aluminum foil, put it in the oven, bake it for 30 minutes. Once the edges are brown, it's time to take it out. You're going to take it out. You're going to let it cool for about 15-20 minutes, and then you serve it. And it's good. It's delicious. It's very, very healthy. It's very good to eat. You can go on the Patreon account and find the full recipe, as well as a picture of a picture with the recipe. And I want to know what y'all think about it and what y'all thinking about all the recipes I've done. If you want to submit any recipes, please contact me at Cajun, CAJUN, Mama, MOMMA, all lowercase letters, Tie, TIE, at gmail.com. So you can contact me there, send me recipes, send me love, send me notes, let me know how I'm doing. And if there's any questions that you guys want to know about the Cajun community, just send me a note, send me a message, and I'll get to y'all on here. Let's go back to the Good Wives as they are discussing again the Oakland child murders.
Ty, another great recipe. For the full recipe that was shared tonight, join us at our exclusive membership club at www.patreon.com/truecrimewives.
Well, in 1976, Jill Robinson, who was 12, a little girl who grew up with a deep-seated fear. She had nightmares a man was going to shoot her. She said, quote, "I know it's crazy, but it feels like someone is going to shoot me." And she told that to her mom, Carol Robinson. In fact, the fear was so persistent, her parents took her to see a child psychologist. Jill was a sweet and precious child, mature beyond her years, and known to challenge her mother at times. Unfortunately, 3 nights before Christmas, on December 22nd, 1976, her mother was making dinner. Jill got into an argument with her mom because she had refused to make biscuits with her. And a friend of the Robinson family, Ted Radomski, said that Jill was very bright, and she had what you might call a changeable pre-teenage nature.
So in an investigation discovery interview, Carol emotionally recalls telling Jill, "Well, Jill, if you don't like being here, why don't you just get your coat and stand out in the front yard and think about it? And you feel like talking about it, come on back in." Words that, most every parent has said, but words Carol will regret the rest of her life. And I've said those things to my kids. Like, you know what? If you don't like it, then get the hell out. Go get your own place. Get your own job. You don't have to live here. That's fine with me. Like I've said that to my kids.
Every parent has. Every parent, every grandparent. People have told that to, their friends' kids. Like,
right. And even siblings, I can think of siblings that have told their kid, their kid sister or their kid brother, why don't you go that, I just wish you weren't, I wish you were never born, or I wish you were never here, and then to have them die after that is just, oh God, right. Can you imagine the pain that they have to live in for the rest of their lives?
She will have to feel so, because she said with that, go out in the front yard. Why don't you just get your coat and go out there? And so she did. So following the argument, Jill packed her blue knapsack with makeup and a blanket. Totally, like we said, teenagers
preteen,
don't have the realistic expectations of what you need to take with you.
right. So makeup and a blanket. Like, she's getting real far with that. Like, no clothes, nothing. Like, makeup and a blanket.
She's going to eat the makeup. We're going to eat the makeup.
Yeah.
So she left her home in Royal Oak, Michigan, pedaling her bicycle down Woodward Avenue. When Jill never came back inside, her mother couldn't find her, so she called the police. Initially, the police thought Jill was a runaway. They assumed Jill had gone to a friend's house, maybe even her dad's, since Jill's parents were divorced. But she had never made it there, and she was last seen at 7:30 p.m. at the Tiny Tim's Hobby Center. Because police thought Jill was likely a runaway, the case wasn't worked like an abduction or a lost child. There was no massive search for the little girl. Despite her bike being found near the hobby store that night, the police still acted unconcerned. And that Christmas, Jill's presence sat under the tree untouched while her family searched for her. On December 26th, everything changed. Jill's body was found by a motorist along Interstate 75, about 20 minutes away from her home in Troy.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, oh, sorry. We were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Now, like forever, her going missing and being her body being found will always be tied to Christmas for that family. Yeah. Like, can you imagine? I lost my mom a week before Thanksgiving. Depending on like when Thanksgiving falls, the date is closer or farther away, but it was within a week of Thanksgiving, and that made the holidays really hard for us, and that was like a year before. It was a couple months. So I turned 30 in January of that next year. And so my birthday, like turning 30 and losing my mom and Christmas and Thanksgiving and everything was always very hard. For years and years, it just was, I had little kids, so I still tried to get through the motions, but it was very hard for years. So I can't imagine what this family went through.
Right. 3 days before Christmas, this happens.
And then she's found the day after.
Right. So your presents are never going to be opened.
Oh, no. So like Mark Stebbins, it appeared the killer had staged her. The only difference was Jill was shot in the face with a 12-gauge shotgun that removed half her head. She was fully clothed with her backpack still on. Autopsy reports revealed that she may have died of shock and hemorrhage rather than the wound itself. Oh,
so God. Horrifying that she lived through that wound to die of bleeding, but also that her biggest fear was to be shot.
So like that's so sad. Like, and I know that feeling, okay? Because I have, and I think I've talked about this before in some of the other things. Like, I have I'm petrified of that I'm going to die in a shower, and not that I'm going to die in a shower like I slip and fall and maybe die. I believe that I'm going to die like this terrible death. And I have thought that since I was very, very little. I have vivid dreams about it. And it's very concerning to me. So I have so many like phobias of taking a shower, getting in a shower by myself. I never shower if people are not home. I can't shower late at night. I have to have, if I do, I have to have somebody in like the room, or like I have a master bedroom. So I have a bathroom inside of my, my room. So my daughter will sit in the bedroom with me and talk, or watch TV or whatever while I'm in there. And I just have to know that somebody's there. So like, I totally believe that you can have premonitions like this. I don't think like the mediums that like think that they can recall it like by like talking to a spirit, by calling them there, and like they can just do it with a snap of a finger. I don't believe in that, but I do believe in premonitions, and if you can have these types of things, that supernatural experiences, and
Yes.
this one for sure.
I have always gotten that kind of deja vu feeling. I get it way more often than I would like, because a situation will happen and be like, I thought about that like 2 years ago. I knew this was going to happen. Why is this happening again? I knew it. I thought this already happened. Even if it didn't happen, I knew it was gonna. Right. And I hate that. I always had a really bad fear as a child. And I mean, it kind of has gone away now that I'm an adult, but I had recurrent nightmares that I was being boiled alive.
Oh my God.
Like, I had to get a dream catcher when I was 6 because I kept having that same dream every single night that I was being boiled alive. And that I just saw the video of, there was a man who at a jail was put into a steaming hot shower by police officers, and he was kept in there like in this tiny little cell shower for 2 hours. They locked the door on him. The water was turned all the way scalding hot, and he actually boiled alive, and he died.
What?
Yeah.
When did this happen?
I think it happened like last year.
Holy crap, I didn't hear about this. Where did this happen?
He was in Florida. So his name was Darren Rainey. He died at the Dade Correctional Institution in unincorporated Miami-Dade County, Florida prison. His name is Darren Rainey. He had some mental health issues, and so he had defecated in his cell and smeared feces on himself and on the walls. The guards put him in the shower, telling him they wouldn't let him out until he cleaned himself. And he refused to stand under the water. So they locked the door, and he was found dead 2 hours later. Like, they kept him in this burning shower for 2 hours. And he was found to the point where his skin had fallen off of him, and flesh was melting off the bone.
Holy crap, how does that even happen in a prison? Like, I mean, okay, so granted, it's not police officers, it's prison guards, that's a little different, but I mean, because I was thinking, like, you were telling me, like, oh, he was arrested and this is what they did when they, like, make you go through, like, the shower and everything. Generally, that's cold. So that's why I was like, what? What are you talking about? But, man, what a crazy story that is. Like, I mean, I get what they were trying to do, but then again, like, you can't just leave somebody like that. Jesus.
Right, so the temperature of the water was 180 degrees Fahrenheit. And they kept him in there for 2 hours. He had burns for more than 90% of his body. And his skin was falling off at the touch. Like, you can literally, there are pictures of it online. You can see.
Now that makes you wonder, why was that person, if that person is like that and he's defecating himself and he's refusing to do anything and everything else, then, why is he not in a mental health facility for the criminally insane? That is the type that would be, that needs to be.
He should have. You know what, the part of that story about really drives me the craziest is not the fact that they did this to him and this is a horrible, horrible way to die, but that the autopsy report, or not the autopsy, like the person who explained about this in their local government said that he didn't die from burns. And it's like, you're lying, because we clearly know that's how he died. You can see there's a video of him in the shower like for 2 hours.
Wow.
It was so disturbing. But
that is disturbing.
It's
So anyway, I mean, back to this, which is disturbing all by itself. As if to taunt the police, Jill's body was laid neatly in the snow within sight of the Troy Police Department. She was fully dressed in her clothing that had been washed and pressed again. The autopsy revealed Jill had not been molested. Police had again mishandled the case, treating Jill like a runaway, and valuable evidence undoubtedly was lost. In addition, the state police lab nor the sheriff's department were called to the scene. So to this day, police are baffled as to why Jill was shot, and all the other victims all died of strangulation or being smothered. They don't know. Did she fight back, leading to this heinous murder, or did she tell her deranged abductor of her longtime fear of being shot? Like, so God, I don't even know.
She probably said that to the person, like, please don't hurt me. Please don't shoot me. I have a fear of being shot. I'll do whatever you want. Please don't hurt me. She was probably, and then for their own sick thrill game to kill her.
Yeah, I don't know if that's it, or, I mean, I could definitely see that happening, but then again, I can also just see, so in my opinion, and we're going to get into this to the next, in the next episodes, because today we're talking mostly about the victims, because, you know what, I always feel like we focus on the perpetrators and the murder and everything itself first, like most people do. But this time I want, you know, I feel like talking about the victims first gives them their moment, you know, like to be,
we still don't know
who they are
fully, who the killers are.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Here's what I think is that, I think that possibly there is more than one person involved in this. And we'll get into that, you know, later, but, and I think that maybe that accounts for why she was done differently. I think that there's a group of them that were in this pedophile ring that were, you know, preying on these children. And maybe she ended up, you know, wherever she was. And like they said, she struggled. And so the person that had her at that time, that's how they killed her, you know. And then the person that laid her to rest, I think that's a different person. I think that is another person who takes care of these kids and has some sick, weird fetish with it, you know, and presses their clothes. And that to me indicates that maybe there was some trauma in their own life as a youngster, you know. I don't know.
Well, while you were explaining that kind of almost reminds me of so a man would be the one abducting them and killing them, but if a woman was the one who would clean up after, in sense of bathing them, you know, taking care of them, manicuring, cleaning their clothes.
Or,
you know,
well,
if it was,
could be.
No,
it could be, but it also could be like someone whose mother was like that to them,
maybe,
and always like very strict in keeping them clean and pressed and all of that. And so it's like some sort of like psychological thing for them. You know what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's horrible. So Tom Robinson had spent years angry at the police for the way his daughter's case was mishandled. He, quote, said, "They won't respond to what they consider a runaway for 48 hours, but she wasn't a runaway. She was a kid who got angry, stomped her feet out of the house, and picked up by a creep. The family still suffers from Jill's death. It's the small things that get to you," said her mom. "The hardest thing is when somebody asks how many children I have. I automatically say 3. I can't believe that now it's only 2.
That's so
horrible. And you have to think also like how traumatizing this is for the siblings. Like your younger or older or twin sibling is missing and dead. Like
Wow.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back. So you often hear and see us Good Wives sipping a glass of wine. And one of our favorite wine clubs is California Wine Club. California Wine Club only works with small wineries, and they hand select 2 bottles of wine each month and ship them straight to your door. Now you don't even have to go to the liquor store to have a sip of bubbly with us. How cool is that?
We absolutely love hearing from our listeners, and we'd like to invite you to send us a question for us to answer or a case you'd like us to cover. You can drop us an email at goodwivesdish@gmail.com, and we might feature it in one of our next episodes. and give you a shout out. Right now, we are also hosting our #LoveWins Scholarship Fund. If you're a college-age student who would like to enter, send us a 30-second video telling us about how you lead with love. Email your entry to us with a little bio about yourself and your educational goals. And if you'd like to learn more about our #LoveWins campaign for peace, merchandise, or donation details, go check out our informational video on youtube.com/murderbydesign. We look forward to hearing from you.
So Christine Marie Mahaley was 10, and she went missing 7 days after Jill Robinson's body was found. So on January 2nd, 1977, Christine was abducted during broad daylight while walking to the 7-Eleven store near her home in Berkeley, Michigan. Now here, I don't care, like 1976, I understand, 1977, I understand. It's a simpler time and, you know, more trusting time, but still at 10, a little girl should not be walking to the store by herself.
Right. And she's 10. That's pretty young. Like I have a brother who's that age and there's no way in hell.
There's no way. And
again, things are different now, but still back then when you know in the area kids are going missing.
Especially not alone. Like, I don't understand why these kids are all walking by themselves.
I think because small time in Michigan, like it's not, you know, like New York City or Orlando. Like this is small town Michigan, like who, you know, blue collar, nobody really has any of those kind of fears. I mean, I know many people who still don't lock their houses when they go to bed, or even when they leave the house, they don't lock the house. You know, they sleep at the window.
I know. I can't do that. I've never been able to sleep with the windows open because when I was young in the 80s and early 90s, I don't remember what the exact years were, but it was Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and in California, and he was like crawling in people's windows, you know, like, and then obviously the Golden State Killer was there before that, you know, doing that. So I was petrified to sleep with my window open. Like it scared the ever living hell out of me because I was for sure he was gonna crawl into my freaking window.
The 70s are an awful period of time. Like
it really, truly, like people think it was so safe, but I'm like, hello, people died. Lots of people died.
Right. It's like there's always, I think there's a show called like the 70s worst area of the decade.
The deadliest decade or whatever, right.
Where it's like, I'm sorry, the 70s has to be the worst. There was way too many people hitchhiking. Almost all of the serial killers were in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really awful.
It's awful. So another child is gone, and Oakland County went into a panic, and the reality of stranger danger terrified the community. Christine's mother, Deborah Jarvis, relives that day constantly. She says Chris was bored, so she asked if she could go to the store to get a magazine. She wasn't usually allowed to cross 12-mile road, but she had gone shopping for me earlier, so I gave in. I explained how to go, to wait for the light, and I told her to hurry. She promised she would. When Christine failed to come back after half an hour, Deborah called the police. Thank God this mother is like, half an hour? No, that's it. She didn't come back? Nope. No.
Yeah.
But when Christine, for 20 days, Deborah paced the floor frantically, exhausting herself with worry. Deborah kept a 24-hour vigil waiting for her daughter to come home. And she went on the news to beg for her daughter's return, and she raised over $17,000 to offer a reward fund. None of it would matter. On January 22nd, 1977, which is the day after my birthday, Christine's body was found by postal worker Jerome Wozni on a dead-end road about 16 minutes from her home.
So 20 days.
Right. So you see that it's evolving at this point. They're getting more brazen. They're keeping the kids longer.
Right. 20 days. Like, just imagine 20 days. That is an eternity. An eternity. And
what is she going through? What did she endure in those 20 days?
Yeah, it's horrifying. And when the police got to the scene, they discovered Kristen's body had been carefully placed just like the other two victims. She had been carried like a parent would carry a child, with one arm under their head and the other under the leg, then carefully placed in the snow. The killer had closed her eyes and crossed her arms. He then tucked her in with snow, patting it down and leaving handprints. Another bizarre and grotesque scene.
So, like, he left handprints?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I doubt there could do. I mean, it's water, but to pack her in the snow.
Wow.
It's creepy. That's creepy.
It is. It's taunting, too. It's taunting, too, because it's like, ooh, you're not going to be able to do anything with this, but I'm going to leave you a little clue.
Right. I'm getting more brazen with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so while it was determined that she had been smothered, but police never released what was used to smother her. Police also said there were no obvious signs of molestation. However, experts agree it is likely he did engage in some kind of sexual activity with her. Like the two last victims, her body and clothing were washed. Shockingly, the autopsy showed that her kidnapper had killed in less than 24 hours before she was discovered. So she wasn't alive for those 20 days.
I mean, that's just crazy. Like, that's just a weird, like.
So she was there for the entire 20 days, but they kept her alive that whole time. Like, she had been killed less than 24 hours before her body was discovered. So she had to endure with that. And her mom at least had a little bit of an uptake side to that. She had said that life had never been the same, and she described her life as a living hell, but somehow I get strange comfort knowing that her killer didn't kill her right away. Chris was a joy. This was why whoever took her and kept her so long was a joy in her company. At least this is what we have told ourselves, and I prefer not to think any differently.
An odd way of looking at it.
I mean, yes, she's probably, again, just trying to console herself in a way that she can.
I don't know. I can't imagine that giving me solace.
I mean, I think it would, knowing. I mean, I don't think it would. I would feel horrible that she was tortured for 20 days.
What did she go through for 20 days? Why did they keep her for 20 days? Like, I can't imagine that. No.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't think I would find any comfort in that. I mean, I guess maybe that's what she's told herself to get through, and I get that, and I understand everybody has a different way of dealing with grief and everything. But for me, that's just an odd way of looking at it.
Yeah, to me, that's like the actual opposite. I would have rather known that she died, right away. And,
to know that my daughter had to, even if she is joyful, like, so she was bringing joy to the person that's ultimately going to kill her. Ew.
Yeah, that is a really weird way to look at it.
It is. It's very strange. So the fourth child that goes missing, and so Christine was the actual youngest one. So the next one is a little boy, and his name is Timothy King, and he was 11. And he was born to Barry and Marion King and was the youngest of 4 siblings. He had 2 brothers, Mark and Chris, and his sister, Kathy. The King family lived in Birmingham, Michigan, in a white-collar professional neighborhood. Timothy was a good kid.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Who loved to play hockey and baseball. And his favorite thing to do was to zoom around the neighborhood on his skateboard and frequent the parks where he played sports. So he had a paper route and was a responsible young boy who rarely got into mischief. And the day Timothy vanished, Timothy's parents had gone out to dinner with a client of his father's law firm and figured Timothy could take care of himself for a few hours. I'm sorry, 11 is too young to leave a child alone. I'm sorry.
I mean, my parents worked, and I was 11 in the 6th grade, so... I mean, I was home alone.
I don't know. And then they go on to say that since he had sat for other children in the neighborhood, which like 11 is way too young to be responsible for any other people's children. Like, this kills me.
Well, I got my babysitting license when I was 10. So it's.
Like, I just don't see how you could possibly be responsible for other children at 10, 11 years old. 13, 14, okay, I'm down with you on that, you know, but like, seriously? I don't know. But she said, we decided he could take care of himself and we weren't gone far or for very long. So, I mean, I don't know. I get it. I see what, you know, okay, so we're just going out. Maybe they already fed him. He's just going to sit and watch TV for a couple hours still. But it's just, I don't know.
But it's sad. And it's, again, I think it's a whole, you know, different time, different generation.
Right. Well, I also think that it's interesting because back in the day, you know, these little kids had paper routes, like, you know, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids had paper routes. When they had paper routes, they had to get up at like 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning and do these routes. My husband had one. He actually had two. He had one, and his mom had one, but he really did both of them. She would help him like load up all the papers, and then he would do on his bike. He would go around and he would deliver all these papers, you know. And I think about that, and I'm like, God, how trusting we were back then to just allow kids to just run around at 5 o'clock in the morning, like on a bicycle, you know, like how dangerous is this?
It's an age of innocence. I think it was, you know, still people thought people were good people. And if the people who are going to get killed by serial killers are, you know, women or women of the street or are, you know, adults in a busier area, like in, you know, Colorado or California or New York, not, you know, a little kid, you know, in small Michigan. And
crazy.
So at about 7:30 p.m., Timothy decided he wanted to go get candy from the local drugstore about 3 blocks away. He borrowed 30 cents from his sister as she was leaving and told her to leave the door open for him. With skateboard in hand, he headed to the store on Maple Road. At about 8 p.m., it is known that Timothy left through the rear entrance of the drugstore that opened to a parking lot shared with the supermarket. And that was the last time Timothy would be seen alive.
Oh, kid, he's just going to get candy and he ends up dead.
Yeah. And so this time, there would be witnesses. So 2 individuals reported seeing Timothy in the parking lot with a shaggy-haired man with sideburns. The man had been standing next to a blue gremlin with white stripes on the side, and police would eventually question every gremlin owner in Oakland County. I mean, it's something, but unfortunately, again, people can just take a car wherever.
Right, but gremlins were even back then very, very limited. There weren't a lot.
True.
You know.
True.
So I mean, it's a very strange car. I don't know if you've ever seen a gremlin, but it's an interesting car. My husband loves them, but they are crazy looking and they're interesting. We didn't make very many. But in 1977, in a New York Times article, the task force put together a profile of the killer and described him as someone above average intelligence and education, a white man with a compulsion for cleanliness, and who is not involved with drugs or alcohol. Possibly a professional or someone in a position of authority that the children would trust, and a schedule that allowed him freedom. The killer most likely lived and worked in Oakland County, given his familiarity with the area. With all of Oakland County in panic, police knew they needed to get Timothy home before it was too late. With the killer previously holding his victims for a few days before killing them, police knew time was of the essence. However, it took 2 days for police to even release the suspect composite, and Barry, Timothy's father, wrote an open letter to the killer that was on the front page of the Detroit News, pleading with the abductor to release Timothy unharmed, and this effort fell upon deaf ears.
Oh. Horrifying. Again, horrifying. Because again, these are kids. These are kids.
Okay, so in another letter, his mother pled for his safe return, and Marion stated that when Tim comes home, they would serve him his favorite Kentucky Fried Chicken. And the family offered a reward and did everything possible to find him. But late evening on March 22nd, 1977, 2 teenagers were driving in a car and spotted the body of a child in a shallow ditch. The body was found 300 feet south of 8 Mile Road in Livonia. only 20 minutes from his home. He was posed, his skateboard was placed next to his body, and his clothing neatly pressed and washed. And the autopsy revealed Timothy had been sexually assaulted by an object, rope burns on both his wrists and ankles, and had suffocated approximately 6 hours before he was found.
So shockingly, the postmortem report showed that Timothy had eaten fried chicken before he was murdered. The murderer had kept him alive for 6 days and fed him his favorite meal before killing him. Dark. That's so fucking dark.
Yeah, which makes you do believe that maybe the other little girl did say something about being afraid of being shot, Now that I come to think of it,
And so in December 1978, the task force disbanded after spending its $2 million budget, and Michigan State Police took over the case. The killings had stopped after Tim's murder, and police theorized the killer may have left the area, been arrested, or died. But so many mistakes had been made in each of the cases, and the system failed all of these children and the killer.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back. Every great podcast needs a great website. Currently, our mother company, Mad Ginger Entertainment, is building their website using Bluehost. Bluehost is one of the best and most affordable web hosting platforms available. Plans start as low as $2.95 a month, and you can even integrate it with WordPress. So if you need your own website or affordable web hosting, grab our discount link in the description and get your podcast a bigger presence online at low costs.
Along with our Loved Ones campaign, we are also launching an organization that is tentatively called the Gale Force. The term Gale Force is used to describe a very strong, fierce wind. The acronym GALE stands for Good Apples of Law Enforcement. Usually, when we hear about any incident involving wrongdoing by a member of law enforcement, they're generally referred to as bad apples, which leaves people asking, where are all the good apples? We know they exist, but we don't get to hear from them enough. That's where the Gale Force comes into play. The Gale Force would be a safe space for those good apples to unify and take action against the bad apples. We believe that good outnumbers bad in all aspects of life, and those numbers are where that Gale Force of fierceness and strength come from. When good unifies, bad will always lose. There are issues in the law enforcement profession that need to be rectified, and we believe that the best way to resolve them starts from within. There's what we call the blue wall of silence, which is an informal rule among police officers not to report on a colleague's misconducts or crimes. It's time to tear that wall down. Officers are often punished if they break that wall of silence. An example of this is Officer Carriel Horn, who we've been hearing a lot about recently. Back in November 2006, she stopped another officer from putting a suspect in a chokehold. She was fired after 19 years on the job and lost her pension because she intervened. Also, the stigma that goes along with members of law enforcement seeking out mental health care needs to end. Studies have shown that members of law enforcement are less willing to seek care because of embarrassment and shame. Keep in mind, this is a high-stress profession with a higher suicide risk than other professions. There have also been some studies that indicate that if an officer receives support from their unit, they're much more likely to seek help when it's needed. We believe the good members of law enforcement far outweigh the bad, but we also believe that the system needs to be changed to give them a louder voice without fear of retribution or desertion by their colleagues or superiors. We hope the Gale Force can be a first step in giving these law enforcement officers from all over the country support and a way to come together and say, we will not stand by and allow anyone to tarnish the profession that we have dedicated ourselves to. We're going to clean the barrel, one bad apple at a time.
Hey guys, it's me, Cajun Mama Ty. I have the band playing in the background, trying to tell them to slow it down just a little bit so I can talk to you and tell you what I'm here to discuss today. So we're going back to our French words and our French roots, and just to let you know, for those of you who don't know me, I am a Cajun woman. I am from South Louisiana. I was born and raised in South Louisiana my entire life. I consider myself a Cajun, and I have lived in the Cajun community. Our French has been dying. I have learned French over the last 28 years being a nurse and taking care of the people in my community. So I want to educate people out there in the world and let them know some of the traditions, the words, the phrases, why we use certain words, why we talk the way we do, just to educate people about who we are. So today's French words I'm going to talk about, and I want to talk about what we call our parents and what we call our grandparents. So times have changed a whole lot since our community has kind of transitioned into the real world, I guess you can say. And back when I was a little girl, my mom and dad were Mama and Papa. Some other common names you would have for a mom and a dad would be Mama or Papa. That is Cajun French for Mama, is Cajun French for Mama, and Papa is Cajun French for father. And it's fading away now more, and more children are starting to call their moms mom, dad, mommy, daddy. But there are people still in our community who try to continue that tradition of mama, papa, mama for their mama and dad. Now, heading into the grandparents. Grandparents these days have so many names. I mean, there's Grandma, there's Granny, there's Mimi, there's Gigi, there's Honey, there's Pop, there's Pappy, there's Papa, there's Grandpa. And in the Cajun tradition, there's no different. But growing up, we called our grandparents Grandma and Grandpa, which means great mama and great daddy. Or we called them Mama and Papa. Or you were called whatever words the oldest grandchild made up a word and called you that. So if the oldest grandchild couldn't say grandma and they said Gigi, you were called Gigi. And that's how a lot of these slang words came about. My ex-husband's grandmother, her name was Grom, which is short. Her name, we called her Grom T. Grom T Grom is short for Grandma, so you shorten it, which you'll find a lot in the Cajun community. We like to shorten people's names, or we like to give everybody a nickname. And so her name was Grom T. And Grom T was called that because she was a grandma, so she was Grom. And she was T. She was little, but she was also the baby of her family. So that's how the Cajun people do. We put things together and we kind of make up our own words. So let's head back to the Good Wives so we can listen to them talk more about the Oakland child murders. See you later.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sad. It's just, God.
And so there are a couple other suspected, could have been. There was one that was disproven, but most of the, this is who they believe were the first and only of the 4 victims of the same person. But as we'll go,
there's others tied to it that, like I said, it was a ring of people, not just one person.
Right, and there are other victims who are still alive that weren't necessarily killed, who will testify in our next episode on how they were treated by some of these people and the shenanigans going around Michigan at that time.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Pedophile ring, private jet planes, and private islands.
Does that sound like Epstein?
Sounds like Epstein, but unfortunately, I don't even know how fortunate. It's not. It's not Epstein.
Right.
It's the same calling card.
It's the same kind of thing, and that's the thing. This happens more than people would like to admit to. This is terrible. Children go missing every day, and it's like nobody even bats an eyelash at it. It's just like, oh, well, that's what happens. And we hear about a couple cases here or there, and everybody gets outraged, and they're like, oh my God, that's so tragic. That's so sad. But think about all the cases we don't hear about, And in each of these cases, these kids, they were just kids.
They were way too young. They were innocent, and unfortunately suffered horrors prior to their death. And it is very disturbing.
It is.
Especially with is it Kristen
McKaylee.
That she was kept for 20 days.
Well, I think that was it Timothy, the last one? He was kept quite a long time too.
6 days. Yeah.
And it is so strange. So in the next episode, we'll be going through the suspects, the aftermath, and where things stand as of 2020. The case gets crazier from here on out, guys. Oh, God, I know we said it all over and over again. It just makes me crazy. Make sure to check out the interview with J. Reuben Appelman that we will be releasing with this. It is a very enlightening episode. He gives us a lot of great information, stuff that he didn't even include in his book, The Kill Jar. So you definitely need to check that one out.
Thanks so much for tuning in and dishing true crime with the Good Wives.
Don't forget to join our Patreon member club to get the full recipe shared tonight, inside documents and pictures from the case, bonus mini podcast episodes, live YouTube discussion, and an exclusive invitation to our discussion group on Facebook, and get some amazing Good Wives merch.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at True Crime Wives. And for more inside information, check us out on YouTube at Murder by Design, where we're currently talking about a few different true crime cases, from bullying murders to serial killers. We dish it all.
Have a good one from the Good Wives, serving up true crime, one dish at a time.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Are you struggling to lose weight and keep it off? Tired of wasting time and money on starvation diets that lead to more frustration and stress? If there was a weight loss solution that could actually work for you, would you try it? Then head to Golo.com.
I'm Steve. I lost 138 pounds in 9 months on Golo.
I'm Amber. I've lost 128 pounds with Golo.
If you're ready to take back control of your life, head to Golo.com now and see how Golo can work for you. That's Golo.com.
My sleep is way better. My inflammation has gone way down. Golo saved my life. I was way overweight. That's what sent me down the path. I wanted to make sure and live for my kid.
I have literally tried everything. I was on the verge of getting gastric bypass surgery, and I saw the Golo commercial, and it was the last thing I tried because it worked.
Join over 2 million people who found a better way to lose weight with Golo. Your healthier and happier life begins at Golo.com. That's GOLO.com. Again, GOLO.com.